music, but I hear talking.
Hello, and welcome to In Our Community. My name is Liz Holtz, and I will be hosting today's show. And with me today, I have a very special guest, Sheri Burns, who is the Executive Director of the Silicon Valley Independent Living Center. Welcome, Sheri.
Thank you. Thank you for having me, Liz.
I'm so happy to have you here because I think what your organization does is really amazing. And I think more people need to know about it. First of all, can you tell our guests, so what is the Silicon Valley Independent Living Center?
Well, I'm glad you asked, and then thank you again for having me on. We are sometimes, I think, the best kept secret in Silicon Valley, even though we've been around for 40 years, and we go to a lot of community events and senior festivals and health festivals to get the word out. But we are a nonprofit agency that provides disability resources, education, peer support, and advocacy for people with all types of disabilities who either live, work, or have some connection with Santa Clara County.
Yeah, so it's basically within Santa Clara County borders, and there are other independent living centers throughout the state.
Correct. So there are 28 in the state of California. We all are separate, but we also are connected in a lot of ways. All the centers for independent living in California and throughout the country and throughout the world.
Wow.
Yeah, there are over 500 in the United States, and then there are several hundred internationally as well. We all abide by the same philosophy, and we provide the same core services. But then we also address the specific needs of our communities that we reside in, depending upon what the needs of the community are, as well as the funding sources that we have available to provide those services.
Very good. So now, and what would you say is your organization's mission? I mean, what is it that you would like to accomplish in an ultimate world?
Well, our mission is we are a cross disability, so all types of disabilities, cross disability, multicultural, and intergenerational organization that provides support services for people to increase their independence or maintain their independence so that they can live to their fullest accomplishments, achieve their goals and ambitions in life. We also work towards systems advocacy, so policy change in our communities so that we can have a more equitable and inclusive community for everybody to enjoy and participate in.
Yeah, no, and those are wonderful goals to have in the community and sorely needed, especially things like, we see more and more seniors that are either trying to age in place, or even now the latest thing is senior roommates, right?
Yes, yeah.
Where they kind of, band together in a home, and take care of each other, which I think is very cool. We go from being, having roommates in a young adulthood to having
college,
roommates as seniors as well. Although I think their weekend parties are probably a little different.
Probably.
So, can you tell us, how did the independent learning centers get started and founded in the beginning?
Yeah. So we're started with a gentleman named Ed Roberts, and he is what we consider is the father of the independent living movement. Ed was had enrolled over at UC Berkeley as a grad student, and this was during a time where there were a number of people who had contracted polio, and so he was post-polio, and it had affected him pretty significantly. So he needed to use an iron lung machine.
Wow.
And the university, as well as most colleges and universities and education systems at that time, were not accessible for students with disabilities. For students to be able to participate and learn in the educational system, at least over at UC Berkeley at that time, is that they were all relegated to the infirmary, would you believe? And so he and another actually a group of several other students primarily with physical disabilities were housed in this infirmary and trying to take classes and study from there. And he thought, this isn't right. I'm not getting the full experience of, having communication with the instructor, with the professors, with my classmates. Exactly. And so, he decided to take it up as an advocacy issue. Well, that didn't get very far at that time at the university, and this was in the late 60s at this time. So he decided to talk with the other students with disabilities and say, hey, do you want to take this on as an issue? We should have an equal education as all other students. And so they developed their own advocacy group, coalition. They called themselves the Rolling Quads. and so they ended up taking it all the way up to the federal level at the Department of Education. And lo and behold, eventually it was ruled in their favor. That's how independent living centers actually started with funding, was through Department of Education because of Ed's advocacy. Ed finished, along with most of the other students, finished his degree, got his master's degree, and decided, we need this kind of advocacy movement for people with disabilities to have equal access, not only to education, but to jobs, to public accommodations in their community, homes, being able to visit friends, to have a full life like everyone else. And so he actually, with some seed money from Department of Ed, started the first Center for Independent Living, which is still there and is in Berkeley and covers Berkeley and Oakland, the east part of Alameda County. So it's called Center for Independent Living. And that's how we got started. Ed actually continued his advocacy efforts and went into government work and became the department director for Department of Rehabilitation in the state of California.
Oh, neat.
Yeah, unfortunately, he passed away in 1995, but he is still considered our champion for independent living services and for disability rights. And so after that first center was started in 1972, then other centers started. And it was very much a grassroots organization and effort, with the community of people just, living in the community who have disabilities, deciding, hey, I want to be part of this movement. I want to provide advocacy. I want to provide peer support to other people with disabilities. Some of the initial services also included personal assistance or in-home caregiver referrals, just getting together and providing peer counseling to each other, and basic information referral and resources. And so we went from that first center in 1972. Silicon Valley Independent Living Center came only a couple years later in 1974.
Wow.
We were established. We just had our 40th anniversary last year, and so, like I said, there's over 1,000 across the world now.
That's amazing. Yeah. That is really amazing, and such a very needed form of assistance. To be able to talk with other people, find out what was working for them, find someone who can help you to find things or ways to make your life easier or work for you better.
Exactly. Exactly.
Which I think is fabulous. So one of the questions that a lot of people will have is, so what makes the independent, Center for Independent Living different from other disability agencies?
Well,
there's certainly a lot of agencies that deal with different
types of
areas.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. And we work very closely with many of the other disability service organizations and advocacy organizations on a variety of issues, and also do a lot of referral back and forth and collaborate to provide the best services that we can for our consumers. What makes us very unique as Centers for Independent Living, however, are that, as I mentioned, we are peer-based, so that means the majority of our staff and our board of our directors are people with disabilities. Some are very apparent disabilities. It could be somebody who is a quadriplegic or paraplegic or has cerebral palsy, or it could be a variety of hidden disabilities like diabetes or epilepsy or a learning disability. A mental health disability. But the majority of our staff and board are people with disabilities. So we're able to provide professional level services in a variety of areas, but also with that personal experience, that compassion that comes from that personal experience of living through certain barriers or attitudinal, issues and things like that we can share with consumers and help them feel that, I'm not the only one dealing with this issue or going through this problem or having this frustration.
Yeah.
And so we're able to provide that peer support along with the direct services that we do.
Well, and that's important, because people, tend to have that, oh my God, I'm having these problems and stuff. It's, it's me, and they get upset with themselves and frustrated. And then when they go to, other people and find out, oh my God, you have the same problem. And then they start getting help and suggestions. Oh yeah, I used to do that, but I found by doing it this way, it works.
Exactly.
Or it's a little easier. Have you tried?
Right.
Which I think is wonderful.
And we do have peer support groups for that reason, is that we can then gather together other consumers, we call our clientele consumers, together so that they can offer those suggestions and that peer support to other folks. It's beneficial for our staff to be able to share information, but again, that's only coming from one person and their experience or their point of view. But when you have a group environment, then you've got lots of people sharing those resources. And it also happens even through our direct services. One of the programs that we provide is housing assistance. As you know, and we all know, in this valley,
Silicon Valley is a challenge for everyone.
Challenge. It's a huge challenge for everyone. But then when you add on
a disability
and low
income and all these things on top of that, that must be really very, very difficult.
It is extremely difficult. So we put a lot of resources and time into providing housing search assistance, and then not only the assistance of how to find affordable housing and make it accessible if it's not accessible, but also all of the steps to go through to be prepared, to how to fill out the application, how to present yourself to the landlord, how to ask for housing modifications, which is your right under the Fair Housing Amendments Act. And then where to get resources to provide, to pay for the cost of filling out the application and doing the credit check, or how to improve your credit. And so it's a 2-hour workshop that we do in our office every week. And then we also provide it in the community at various community and senior centers throughout Santa Clara County. We have hundreds and hundreds of people that we're able to provide housing assistance with that. But because it's also a group environment, is that you have people there who are sharing ideas and resources with each other too, besides what we're sharing.
Which I think is wonderful, and a lot of I think a lot of governmental agencies especially tend to be very siloed in what they do. Whereas what I love about your organization is that you work with those agencies, but then you kind of provide this overarching connection between different agencies, and you're able to help and guide your clients to, oh, this is where you can get this help, and here's where you can get this help. And to mesh it all together and make it work for them.
Exactly, and that's the number one. The number one service we do is information referral, which includes education and technical assistance, and then after that's housing.
So now you have 2 offices in Santa Clara County. Where are those located?
Our main office is at the corner of 14th and Santa Clara. It's 25 North 14th Street, Suite 1000, which is the 10th floor, in San Jose. And we just moved there recently.
So is that the building down on 14th in Santa Clara that used to be the hospital?
It's where the hospital was. It's the building right across the street. So a lot of the doctors and medical providers that were at San Jose Medical Center when it was there had offices in the San Jose Business Center, which is the name of the complex that we're at. Yeah. So there's still some doctors and therapists there, but there's also some other nonprofits that have joined us there at that location. That's our main office. We also have a branch office, and it's a full-service branch office in Gilroy that serves the South County cities of Gilroy, San Martin, Morgan Hill. And that's located at 7881 Church Street, Suite C in Gilroy.
Oh, okay. So right near downtown Gilroy.
Yes, yeah.
Oh, yeah. So, and Can you tell us a little bit about who's the typical client or the types of clients that you serve? Because I'm sure, as you mentioned, it's not only physical disabilities, there's hidden disabilities.
Right.
So you have this whole plethora.
Yes, and that also makes us unique because there are a lot of other wonderful nonprofit organizations in our community that we're very blessed to have that focus on, say, multiple sclerosis or cerebral palsy or people with developmental disabilities and intellectual disabilities. And we do a lot of networking with them. But we serve everyone. People with physical disabilities, sensory disabilities like hearing loss or who are deaf, people who are low vision or blind, people with mental health disabilities, people with emotional disabilities, intellectual, developmental disabilities, cognitive disabilities, multiple disabilities.
Well,
and they range from, like we were saying with the obvious, somebody who perhaps is a wheelchair user or uses a walker because of a physical disability, to somebody who has heart disease or COPD or diabetes or is traumatic after a brain injury, has a traumatic brain injury, which may or may not be manifested physically. So people with all types of disabilities.
Yeah, and that's one of the things I love. I mean, basically is if you're having difficulty in your life for whatever reason, in living independently, they can come to you and you will help them.
Absolutely. And if it's something we don't provide, but even though we're a one-stop shop and we have a lot of services, there are things that we don't provide directly. And then we refer them over or do a warm handoff with one of our colleagues in another agency who can help them.
Which I think is perfect.
Yeah.
And so when clients come to you, for services, and sometimes those services can be rather extensive, are there fees involved that the client pays, or how do these services magically appear?
Yeah, well, they magically appear by the goodwill of taxpayers and donors. We have two federal grants that provide services again for the independent living centers. As I mentioned, started with Department of Ed, and now we're under the Administration for Community Living within Health and Human Services. And then we also have grant funding through the State Department of Rehabilitation, their independent living section. And then lots of local county and city-based funding, and then fundraising and donations. We also have one program that we are able to bill Medi-Cal for, and that's our Community Transitions Program.
Wonderful, wonderful. And, the other thing is, one of the things I'd like to ask is, obviously you do a lot of things that really impact the individual's life, right? By making, their life easier to making them being able to continue to live independently, or if they've had some medical issues, get back, and they can't quite go back to the life they had before the medical issues, and stuff, how they can, go back to a life that's at least comfortable for them.
And fulfilling.
And fulfilling. And stuff. So how does that impact the community at large?
Well, if we have as many of our residents who are participating in our community, it makes for a more enriched, vibrant community and a better community for everyone. So if we have folks with various types of disabilities who are engaged in volunteer work or in other community services, we have a lot of people who come back and volunteer with us because they were very appreciative and grateful, and they want to come back and help other folks with the peer support. Also working on commissions and councils to help everyone better understand the importance of an equitable community, of equal access for everyone, so everybody can participate in jobs and employment situation. It makes us a better community if everybody can be a participant in the community.
I agree. Because it's the more everyone is working together, you know, the easier it is to uplift the group as a whole.
Exactly. And so some of the advocacy, community advocacy issues that we work on include, we were talking about the high cost of housing, include working with many coalition partners in Santa Clara County to increase the stock of affordable, accessible housing. And working with our County Board of Supervisors and our Office of Supportive Housing and developing guidelines so that we can actually build more housing to provide the long-term support for people to remain in the community. And some of that would also include support services being co-located in those housing projects, or having the ability to have a 2-bedroom unit so that you can have an in-home care provider if you need live-in assistance for you to be able to live in the community.
That's a neat idea.
Yeah. Making sure that we incorporate universal design principles in the construction, so that as we embrace being a age-friendly community and helping people age in place, that they don't have to move because I've now had a stroke, and for me to be able to get around, I'll need to be, using a wheelchair or a scooter, and now I've got 2 steps to deal with, and either I have to put in a ramp, or maybe that might not even be possible because of the way it's.
Well, and if you're off a hallway or
Yes,
something,
exactly.
then it's physically impossible to do, and
That's right.
So then
if we
what?
build housing right from the get-go that has no step entryways, that has wider doorways, that has grab bars, for example, or at least the backing behind the wall to attach a grab bar in the shower or tub unit, wider doorways into bathrooms, making it a little bit wider space for maneuverability, you increase the safety, and you also increase the possibility for the person to be able to live there throughout their life and not having to move if they don't want to.
Yeah, well, and same thing. I mean, maybe that's something we need to think about in our normal housing as it's built as well. I know that there are specialists that come, that you can hire, that will come and look at your house, and say, I want to age in place, and they'll come out and they'll say, okay, well, here's some things you should consider. You need to do this, you're going to need to do that if you, think this is going to happen. But yeah, you're right. As people age, sometimes they have to stay in a hospital bed in the home. Sometimes, I know my grandmother went from walking with a cane to walking with a walker, to being in a wheelchair, to being bedridden, and that whole transition, and especially when, she went to a wheelchair, and had to cut the doorways away and things like that. So if you do it at the start, or even if they go back and retrofit, then that would be helpful, for all generations.
Absolutely.
And so one of the questions is, so what do you have coming up? What's on the horizon for the Silicon Valley Independent Living Center?
Well, we have, as I mentioned, a number of services that we provide. I didn't get to talk about all of them, but information referral, housing assistance, independent living skills training. We teach cooking, money management, time management, mobility training, how to get around in the community. One of the things that we're going to be expanding in the very near future in that area is working with more youth with disabilities who are transitioning from high school into adulthood. And so we have a project right now, it's a pilot project with a couple of school districts and Department of Rehabilitation to work with a number of high school students to help them learn independent living skills so that they have those skills in place when they're ready to go to college or move out on their own and get a job. And so that will help them with those IL skills as well as the soft skills that are part of job training of how to be a good employee, how to interview well, how to dress for success, all of those kinds of things. So we're going to be teaching more of those. We also will be expanding our community transitions program, which is moving people out of nursing homes and other institutional settings back into the community with the supports and services and the access modifications if necessary for them to be able to live in their own homes successfully in the community.
Which I think is like an amazing thing, that you do. You were telling me earlier about, one of your clients that had been, had a stroke, was in a hospital for over 3 years.
Correct.
when your agency was introduced to her, and you were eventually able to work with her, find her, get her, back into her own home,
Right.
which had been sitting vacant while all this was going on, and get her care and get her, acclimated, reacclimated, systems put in place, ramps put in place, all these things, so that she could enjoy being in her own home again.
Yes, and she kept, when we got to her, when she was referred to us by the nursing home administrator, Evelyn, she was 97 years old, and she was still, whippersnapper, and she's like, help me get out of here, I want to get back to my house. And we did, and it took a little while, several months, but we were able to work with a contractor to build a ramp into her house. There wasn't a lot of modifications, thankfully, that needed to be done. It was a single level, so not multiple level, but she loved gardening, and she hadn't been able to do that for years. And so we had a contractor build her a raised planter bed in her backyard. She also loved to paint, so we built and had them build an easel that was at a height from her wheelchair that she could paint again. And, just having that, those goals being able to come to reality for her and to be able to be purposeful with her life again. She's now 101, and I think she's gonna outlive me. I mean, she's just phenomenal, and that's just one example of the over 100 people with disabilities that we've helped transition back into the community from nursing facilities.
I just find that fascinating, and I feel sorry for her. I mean, can you imagine being stuck someplace you don't want to be for 3 years, knowing that your home is just right down the street?
Exactly. How frustrating. Put it mildly.
I'm surprised she didn't organize her own, jailbreak.
And then assistive technology is the last area that we'll be continuing to expand. We have an Ability Tools program where we loan out items to help people increase or maintain their independence, either in a work environment, at home, in the community, a variety of settings. We have over 200 ability tools that we can loan out. We're one of 12 sites in the state of California that does this. And for free, absolutely free, you can try it out for 30 days and see if the device works for you. And then if it does, we'll help you find out the best price of where to buy it.
Which I think is very cool. It's like a try it before you buy it thing.
Yeah. Can I show you one device? Do we have time?
Actually, no, we're out of time. But if you would, please tell our viewers how they can find you over at the Silicon Valley Independent Living Center.
Well, we are located, again, our main office is 25 North 14th Street, Suite 1000 in San Jose, and that's 95112. And you can also call us at 408-894-9041 or email us at info@svilc.org. And if you'd rather work at our Gilroy office or see someone at our Gilroy office, we'll put you in touch with them too.
Okay. So great, and they can always go to your website at SVLIC.
Yes, SVILC, right? .org, right.
Great, thank you.
Thank you, Liz.
It's been a pleasure to have you.
Thank you.